Okay, so our next topic is going to be on something called unit rates, and I think a few of you all saw this on your test yesterday or the day before. What's the unit rate? And it was hard for me not to say anything. I couldn't help you on it, but I wanted to say we're going to learn about tomorrow, which we are going to learn about unit rates today. And so talk a little bit about them, about kind of how we find them, and where we see these as well. Before we look at unit rates, the next several weeks, we're going to be talking a lot about ratios. And a ratio, notice you don't do any operation when we talk about ratios. It is a comparison. Comparison between two quantities. And one type of ratio that we're going to look at quite a bit is a rate. The key for rates is to know that it has different kinds of units. So rates always have two different units. And then that leads us to unit rates, which is what we're going to look at today. And a unit rate is a rate, and you simplify it to where the denominator, the bottom, is 1. You think about the word a unit. Unit means 1. And so that's why we call it unit rates. The big thing with that is it needs a denominator of 1. So, thinking about ratios, there are 3 different ways that we can write a ratio, 3 different ways you're going to see it written this year. Let's take the ratio 1 to 3. What's one way that we could write the ratio 1 to 3? How can we write a ratio? What's one way?
3 over 9.
Well, let's do 1 over 3.
Oh.
So, yeah. So we can write it as a fraction, like that. That's one way to write a ratio. What's another way to write this ratio of 1 to 3? It's the most common way you see ratios written.
1.
No, it won't be with a half.
1, 2, 3.
Okay, we could say 1, 2, 3, like that. And then the other one, what do we put in between the 1 and the 3? Yeah, the colon, yes. So those are 3 different ways that we write ratios. Now, the most common way that we're going to write it is as a fraction. So you're going to see ratios written the most as a fraction. We can simplify ratios, but we can't do anything else with them. So the only operation we can do with the ratio is to simplify it. Kind of like what Abdullah said, if we had 3 to 9, 3 over 9, we can simplify that to 1 over 3 or 1 to 3. So we can simplify them. And actually, that's what we're going to be doing today with unit rates, is simplifying those ratios to where we get 1 as our denominator at the bottom. Okay, so ratio, rate, and unit rate. So let's focus on unit rates now. So unit rates, first of all, have to have 2 different units. And here are 3 very common unit rates. So the number of miles over 1 hour. Notice that all of these have a 1 as the denominator, because that's what makes them a unit rate. So the number of miles every hour, the unit rate that we call that is miles per hour. Common one that we know. Miles per hour. And so there's two ways that we can abbreviate that. Right there. Then we've got the number of miles for 1 gallon of gas. Number of miles for 1 gallon of gas. You all know that as gas mileage. And we say miles per gallon. If you ever hear on a car commercial, it gets 35 mpg. That's miles per gallon. That's what the gas mileage is. And then the other common one that we're going to use is dollars per pound, or dollars for 1 pound of food usually is what that is. Price per pound, and that is the unit price. So if you ever see unit price, it'd be dollars per pound or dollars per ounce. And there's other unit rates other than just these three, but these are the three that we see a lot and then we're going to use a lot. But next week we're actually going to be doing a project dealing with unit rates, and you're going to see there's a lot of different ways that we can find unit rates. It doesn't just have to be miles per hour, miles per gallon, or price per pound. And just one thing about price per pound, sometimes food is not always measured in pounds. It can be also measured in ounces. And so it could be price per ounce as well as price per pound. You all see this unit rate a lot in the store. You might not recognize it, but next time you go to the grocery store, look at the price tag. It'll say like the price of that, like a box of cereal, say like $3.29. But then up in one of the corners, it usually has like a yellow box sometimes, and it'll say like 23.1 cents. And that is the unit price. That's the price for 1 ounce of cereal. You also see this if you're getting chicken or steak in the meat department. It'll say the whole package is $7.99, but it's $3.49 per pound. And so you know you're getting more than 1 pound of whatever. So next time you all go to the grocery store, look for that unit price somewhere, because that's what a lot of times a lot of people use to compare the prices. I do this. Maybe I'm just a weirdo because I like numbers, but I will, like when we go shopping, I'll see what's the better deal. One might be, because you know when you go shopping, there's different sizes. So different sizes are going to be different prices. The way that you compare the different sizes is you look and see what's the best unit price. What's the cheapest price for 1 ounce, for 1 pound, anything like that. And so we're going to use those unit prices next week on something that we do. All right, so let's look at some examples in finding these unit rates. With unit rates, we're going to get as exact of an answer as we can. And so if we've got to make that answer a decimal, then we'll make it a decimal, and we'll round to the nearest hundredth if we need to. So the first one, let's say we get $300 for 6 hours of working. So this is going to be a different type of unit rate. It's going to be dollars per hour. Dollars per hour. So notice all of these unit rates is something per something. And per means what operation? Divide. So to find a unit rate, we are going to divide. So the big thing to remember for unit rates is you need to divide those two. And that's going to almost always work for unit rates. Divide those two. So this is going to be 300 divided by 6 hours. That's how we find this unit rate. So we could set up the division problem. We could also do this. What's 30 divided by 6? So what's 300 divided by 6? 50. So this is going to be $50. You could also write $50 per hour, and usually that's how we make that look. So with unit rates, it's going to be kind of like science class. You need to make sure you put the units with it so I know what you're talking about. So $300 for 6 hours, the unit rate would be $50 for 1 hour. Okay, we're going to do the same thing for the second one. This is miles per hour. So miles per hour, which means we're going to take 220 miles and divide it by 8 hours. 220 divided by 8. So remember I said we want to get as exact of an answer as we can. So 8 goes into 22 twice. It's a 60. 8 goes into 67 times. And instead of leaving a remainder of 4, we want to continue to divide. So put a decimal point after this 0 and pull it up to make it after the 27. And then add a 0 and bring it down. And 8 goes into 40, 5 times exactly. So our answer is going to be 27.5. So with this one, we want to make it as exact as possible, so keep it as 27.5. It's going to be 27.5 miles per hour. We're just going to write MPH. Yes. You might have a repeating decimal. If that happens, just make sure I know it's repeating. Put the line over it. Yeah, so with unit rates, we want to be as exact as possible, like I said. So if that means show it's a repeating decimal, show it's a repeating decimal. Okay, any other questions about this? Unit rates, we divide most always. Okay, so let's look at our next one. Adrian biked 48 miles in 4 hours. If she biked at a constant speed, how many miles did she bike in 1 hour? First thing, you're going to see the word constant a lot in math, or constant speed, constant rate, something like that. Constant speed means it is not changing. So if it's constant something, constant in math means it stays the same. So being a constant like a straight line. It's always going to stay the same. That means she bikes in the first hour the same speed, the second hour the same speed, the third hour the same speed, the fourth hour the same speed. So that's what constant means in math. So 48 miles in 4 hours, we're just going to do 48 divided by 4. Because speed is always measured in miles per hour, miles divided by hours. So 48 divided by 4 would get us 12 miles per hour. That means she biked 12 miles every 1 hour. That's what that means. She biked 12 miles every 1 hour. Okay? With miles per hour, another thing, if you all go on a long trip, maybe some of you all might be traveling over fall break, you could find your average speed, take the number of miles that you travel for the whole trip, divided by how many hours it took you for that trip, and that's your average speed right there. And so it's exactly how we find that. For Adrian riding the bike, you could find that for any time that you're taking a trip, if you needed to. All right, go ahead and find the unit price of that 4-pack of gum. So you're going to find the price of 1 pack of gum. That's what you're doing there. So find the unit rate for that one. Find the price for 1 pack of gum. So you're trying to find the price per pack for 1 pack of gum. So you're going to do $2.12 divided by 4. Remember, the first number goes on the inside. First number goes on the inside. So that's what our division problem is going to look like. 4 goes into 21 5 times. And then 4 goes into 12 3 times. So the answer is going to be 53 cents per 1 pack of gum. So I'll write it like this. You could also write it as 53 cents, like that. But most of the time you're going to see it written with a dollar sign, so 0.53 instead. Okay, so any questions on that? Biggest thing was making sure 212 went on the inside when you divided. Another type of question that we might see is you've got different sizes and different prices. Now, looking at these sizes, so this is something this is a real life problem. Because let's say you are going to buy dog food. Dog food comes in a lot of different sizes of bags, right? And you don't know which one's the better deal. Is it better to get the really big bag, or is it better to get the smaller bag? So what we've got to do is find the price per pound. Price per pound. And so what we're going to do is take the price divided by the pounds and figure out which one is the cheapest, which one is the lowest price. So we'll split this up a little bit. These 2 rows, do the first one, do the 40-pound bag. Middle row, do the 20-pound bag. And then the other 2 rows, do the 8-pound bag. And we'll compare them here in a second. Make sure the price goes on the inside when you divide. Your division problem should look like this up on the board. remember that we're talking about money. So should you round this? Round to the nearest cent. That's what's going to make the difference. Rounding it's going to make the difference. So round to the nearest cent. So as we are wrapping this up, this is something that, you all probably don't care about it because you're 12 and 13 and you don't care much about saving a lot of money. But you could do this at the store. Get out your phone on a calculator, do the price divided by the pounds, see what's the best deal, what's the cheapest thing to get. And so this is, I promise you, people do this all the time. Compare unit prices to see what's the better deal, what's the cheapest overall. And so we do 49 divided by 40, you should have got, was it 1.225? But this can round to the nearest cent. It's going to be $1.23 per pound. Okay? For the 20-pound bag, you got 1.172. And that's going to be $1.17 per pound. And then for the 8-pound bag, usually the smallest bag or the smallest amount is the biggest price. Usually if you buy smaller, it's the most expensive. You get 1.235. Round that, it goes up to $1.24. So what's the best deal? Which one's the one that we should buy? If we want to save money, which one's the best one that we should buy? Alex? The 20-pound bag. It's the cheapest per pound. So that is the best, that's the lowest price per pound. The lowest price per pound, the 20-pound bag. Okay, any questions on that one? All right, so that's comparing different prices, using the unit price to compare and see which one's the cheapest. And then the last type of question that deals with unit rates is a question that we've already done a few times in class. When assistant cook peeled 18 potatoes in 6 minutes, at this rate, how many can you peel in 150 minutes? Can we go straight from 6 minutes to 150? So what was the first thing that we had to do? What was the first thing? Remember what we had to do first?
Multiply? 18, 60?
Not multiply, divide. Yeah, 18 divided by 6. 18 divided by 6 would be 3. Remember we said that is 3 potatoes in how many minutes? 3 in 1 minute. And 1 minute, that's a unit rate. So this, by doing a question like this, we're actually finding the unit rate first. Now, what can we do with that 3 potatoes to get to 150? Multiply it by 150, yes. And we get 450. So a question like that, it's actually a unit rate question, but we've already done it quite a few times. You divide the first two to get the unit rate, how much it is in 1 minute, and then multiply the unit rate by 150 here to get 450 potatoes. That's a lot of potato peeling. So big thing, unit rates. Everything is out of 1 hour, 1 minute, 1 pound, 1 ounce, 1 gallon. And you divide to find the unit rates. So that's the big thing for unit rates. Divide, and it's all out of 1 something. So we got a few questions to be working on. You can go ahead and get started. We're finally going back to chapter 1 in our books.